Hello, and welcome to the sixth episode of Culture Schlock. I am one of your hosts, Danny.
And I am the other host, Zach. We're trying to keep you on your toes. Danny did the intro today instead of me, so did we get you? Did we spook you? Did we scare you?
Was that a good prank?
Yeah, is that a jolly old prank? It's not even April Fool's Day yet. Wait till you see what we have in store then. Ooh.
Ooh. Today is just the two of us, just us gals. We have decided to celebrate a very special anniversary
Oh
today.
yes, absolutely. The most special of special anniversaries.
It is the anniversary, the fourth anniversary. What year is that, Zach? What do we get the newlyweds?
The fourth anniversary. It is fruit or flowers. So,
So let's get some flowers
oh
ready.
yeah, edible arrangement. Let's do an edible arrangement. Make it kind of both.
Absolutely. There we go. Best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana always said. We're going to get that edible arrangement for the movie Lego Batman.
Woo! Yeah,
Yay! You've been begging us to talk about it.
it's there's a lot of serious stuff going on in the nation right now. So we decided to cut to brass tacks and give the people what everybody in the world was clamoring for, and that is the hearty discussion on the fourth anniversary of the Lego Batman movie.
But before we dive into Lego Batman, I would love to talk a little bit about the Lego movie. I guess by now it's a franchise, but
Yeah,
like Lego movie, the trailers came out and everyone was like, this is stupid.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about that too because I was one of those people. I did
Oh, me
Yeah,
too.
I did not see the Lego movie actually before I saw Lego Batman movie. Um,
Oh,
oh yeah,
really? See, my friends and I saw the Lego movie in the theater, mostly like, oh, we're gonna sit here and make fun of it. This is blatant advertising.
we're going to give them our money ironically.
but we were but we walked out and we were like, oh man, that was good.
Hmm. Yeah, and it was a really similar reaction to me. I like I said, I saw Lego Batman before Lego Movie, and I was blown. Well, we'll get to Lego Batman, but I was blown away by Lego Batman on my first watch a couple of years ago, and I think I like either red boxed it or like digital rental the original Lego Movie because I'd never seen it, and that blew me away too. I was all I knew about it, and the thing that really kept me away from it was the all the advertisements with the "Everything is awesome" song. I was like,
Yes, they had very grating
yes,
advertisements.
yeah. I and that like that is what turned me off from the movie, and I still like that song is still kind of to me, but I love the Lego movie. The Lego movie. It's not only it's really well animated in my opinion, just like how they kind of make it look like pseudo stop animation, but then it
Yes.
also is funny as hell. The writing is phenomenal in that movie and Lego Batman. And then Lego Movie caught me off guard. I had no idea because kind of watching Lego Batman movie now, knowing this, you can kind of see little bits of that. But I had no idea of the live action component that was
Oh yeah, yeah,
to the
yeah.
Lego movie. Yeah, and that caught me off guard. Like I didn't know, like I knew Will Ferrell did a voice in it, but I had no idea like he was like actually,
Lord
yeah,
Business.
Lord Business.
I haven't watched that movie in ages. Man, that shit's just locked inside my brain.
I wouldn't have been able to pull that out, so that's real fun. But I yeah, I really enjoyed the Lego movie. I still haven't seen the second part, which by the way, that is like the cutest subtitle ever for pun reasons. I adore that.
It's good. It's definitely a step
Oh,
down
okay.
to me. I mean, I'm sure some of our audience, or maybe some of our audience likes it more than the first, but
Hmm.
it just doesn't have that razzle dazzle that the first one has.
Um,
But I think the first one had the benefit of being able to surprise
yeah,
you with how good it
yeah,
was. And then going into the second, you're like, no, I know this movie can be
yeah.
good. You're like, yeah, yeah, it's good.
Expectations have been raised. Yeah, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But one thing I love about all of the Lego movies, because there's Lego Movie the second part,
Hmm.
Lego Batman, and Lego Ninjago.
What did you call me?
All of these movies have a very strong sense of play that is very literal in the Lego movies
Yeah.
because they're like directly saying this is a child
Yeah.
playing, but the other two are built and constructed in a way where it does still feel like you're watching a child play with
Yes.
Legos. Like all of the logic in the movie, it sounds exactly like a child making it
Yeah.
up, and it
Oh yes,
works.
yeah, absolutely. It's like just yeah, from like the plot to like I noticed it especially this time around rewatching it for this podcast. The all the gunshots in this movie are just people going pew 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 pew. There's no real gun noises or anything like that. So like I don't yeah, it's just really funny, to imagine a kid holding his or her Legos and going pew 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 pew. It's very very funny to me, and I
And like there's a lot of intense action scenes, but is always they always go out of their way to show you that everyone's okay.
yeah
There's a point I don't want to dive in too quickly, but there's a point in the movie where a cat
yes.
Lego becomes submerged in lava and you're like, "Oh my god, that cat just died." But it immediately surfaces and it's like, "I'm alive."
I did not remember that. There was several moments in this movie, rewatching it where I watched it like 3 in the morning last night, and there were several moments where I belly laughed, and that was one of them. The cat literally,
Oh
it's
yes.
brown, and it gets touched by the lava and like turns black, like it gets deep fried, and it goes, "I'm okay." Oh, very good, very
To me, my favorite part. This is a very funny movie. There is not, it's very effective, but for me, the best laughs come from these nameless, faceless
good. Uh-huh.
characters who like the child has decided to have this rich
Yeah,
life outside of the context of being background players in
yeah,
this story. We'll get to that.
yeah.
We'll get to that. It's just it's very there's always this very strong sense of play
Yes.
in the
Oh
movies,
yeah.
and that's why I think it's so easy to love all of them.
Hmm. Yes, it's yeah. There's just yeah. It's very. I think you nailed it with that. It's the sensation. Yeah, it's the way the writers um like make it is that yeah, it definitely feels like someone playing just making stuff up as they go along, and like there are certain times like the early seasons of Rick and Morty I think do that really well, like for an example, like where it's the voice actors are just ad-libbing in the booth and then they kind of animate it around it. Another famous example is
Yeah.
Robin Williams in Aladdin, like they
Yes.
animated around him, which at the time was like unheard of. And I think that the way the writing is in that is that it feels like just the plot is kind of getting made up as it goes along, and they do that very effectively. It's very fun.
Yes. And I think fun and lighthearted and not taking itself too seriously is something we miss from Batman a lot these
Yeah,
days. I feel like I love the Christopher Nolan movies, but I feel like they broke Batman.
yeah, they definitely pushed the future of DC. I'm glad you brought that up. The future of DC films in a very specific direction that they're still very hard trying to wrestle with. And I'm glad you brought that up because um, the movie was released on February 10th of 2017, and at that time, if you look at the DC extended universe filmography, the movies that we had gotten at that point, we had gotten Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, and then Wonder Woman was just around the corner. So we hadn't gotten Wonder Woman yet, and
So we were still neck deep in the doom and gloom
mhm,
DC
yes,
movies.
exactly. And I don't think this is a very controversial opinion, but a lot of people would say, and I'm one of them, that the best of the DCEU movies that has been released is Wonder Woman. So at this point, we were still kind of like, yeah, in the lowest of the low. And when I saw this movie coming off the tails, especially of Suicide Squad, um, which was something I was very excited for, and got my hopes and dreams dashed very, very hard. But
Sitting in the theater going, "Oh no, this
yeah,
is bad."
within like the first, like, I don't even know what, probably not even 5 minutes, even shorter than that. But regardless, seeing the Lego Batman movie shortly after that, as well as Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, this was at the time the best theatrically released DC movie I had seen in a long time, probably since The Dark Knight. If I were to guess, I know
Mhm.
some people like The Dark Knight Rises. In my opinion, though, I'm not a fan. Oh, we do have a guest today, ladies and gentlemen. Bane is here with us. Okay.
um, but yes, and I didn't even realize it was that close to Suicide Squad. There was a Suicide
Mhm.
Squad joke in
Yes.
this
Yeah.
movie. There are a couple actually, but
Killer Croc. I did something.
he did
Yeah.
exactly what he did in the Suicide Squad movie, which is swim under a place
Press a
and
button. Yeah.
touch a bomb's
Yeah.
button. You're just like, I did
I
it.
think that's like the only time he speaks in the whole movie too, which is just precious. I love it.
Yes. Speaking, well, this isn't a speaking of, but the cast for Lego Batman is
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh yeah.
Will Arnett is a perfect choice for an animated,
Yeah.
goofy, but still, I guess not goofy, a parody of
Yeah.
Batman.
Imagine Joe Bluth from Arrested Development as a billionaire crime fighter, and yeah, it's pretty much what we get with Batman.
There are so many people in this cast, but I specifically want to talk about who. I specifically want to talk about this because Catwoman
Yeah.
is in
Same.
this. Everyone's in this movie, but Catwoman's there and is played by Zoe
Yeah.
Kravitz, who is now playing Catwoman for
Yeah.
real in the Robert Pattinson Batman movie that's
Yeah.
coming. And I just think that is hysterical. I should watch this movie right before
Yeah.
I go, so I'll expect her to say
Yeah.
meow meow after
We
everything
are on the same.
because
You've
this
like touched on
Catwoman.
every note that I've had so far in order of, so I wanted to bring up because Catwoman hacking at the beginning. Meow meow, you're in. Meow meow. I remember the first time I saw this. That was, I knew I was in for a good time after that.
She does not have she does not have many lines, but every line she has is sandwiched with a
Yeah.
meow meow on both ends.
So Zoe does not do that in the Matt Reeves the Batman movie. That's coming
Oh, I
out.
think
Yeah,
she will.
she better. It better happen at all.
So I just thought that was hysterical that she's the only one in the Lego Batman movie who is going on to play in live action in a serious
Uh huh.
film the very character she played here.
And in that same vein, I think it's really funny. The director of this movie, Chris McKay, who he did the Lego movie previously as well. He was the director of the Lego movie. After doing this movie, there hasn't been a whole lot of news about it since it was announced. And with the current state of the DCEU, it may not even be a thing, but it's still on his Wikipedia page. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. He was uh, attached to direct a live action Nightwing movie. Yeah, so
Oh,
I think it's very cool. Yeah, that clearly the, even though this movie is obviously, a comedy, I still think it takes it has a reverence for the source material, and that shows by the
oh
fact
yes.
that not only are some of the voice actors, Zoe Kravitz is coming back to actually play Catwoman in live action, but
Coming back, returning to the role of
returning to
Catwoman.
the role the same way she played it previously. But yeah, I think it's also really fun that Chris McKay, they clearly saw that he had a passion for the characters, and they're going to bring him back to do a Nightwing movie. I think that's really cool.
Yes, and oh, the reverence.
Hmm.
Yes. There is so much love. I think all good comedies that kind of parody the thing it's based on have to have a
Yeah,
reverence for what it's or just a deep disdain. It cannot you cannot have a medium opinion
you can't be
about the
indifferent.
thing
You
you're
have to be
parodying.
one way or the other.
But in the opening, Joker has hijacked a plane or he's talking to a man who's still flying the plane and he's listing who is helping him. And he lists all the classic Batman villains. We got Mr. Freeze, Penguin, Poison Ivy, Catwoman. I'm missing
Riddler,
some. I
Scarecrow.
apologize. Riddler, Scarecrow. Riddle Riddler is Conan O'Brien.
Wait, what?
He's got two lines in the whole movie, and the Riddler is Conan
What the
O'Brien.
hell? I had no idea. That's great.
But so he starts the list with all these iconic Batman villains because he has a very iconic rogues
Yeah.
gallery, and then he starts listing all these actually
Yeah.
real villains. I wrote them down as he was saying
Good.
them. It took me several tries. He speaks very fast. We have Crazy Quilt, Eraser, Polka Dot Man, soon to be in
Yeah,
the
we
Suicide
have
Squad.
the Suicide Squad and the Batman. It's very clear they're trying to retcon some stuff. But sorry, go ahead.
Yes. After Polka Dot Man, there's Mime, Tarantula, King Tut, Orca, Killer Moth, March Harriet, Zodiac Master, Gentleman Ghost, Clock King, Calendar Man, Kite Man from
Hell
Harley
yeah.
Quinn, Egghead, Cat Man, Zebra Man, Condiment King, Killer Croc. So they have everyone, and like the little flight guys, he's also like, you have to have made some of those up. And it's just one of those fun things where when you're a total dweeb like us, we're like, no, they
Yeah.
did.
And then they hang the lampshade right on that. The Joker goes, "Ah, no, they're all real. Probably worth a Google."
Yes, but I think it's just hysterical because for every iconic Batman villain, there is at least three really
Yeah.
stupid Batman villains that we don't talk
Yeah.
about.
Fun fact. Here's just an example for one off the top of my head. You know the famous and they even reference it in this movie when Batman stops all the villains at the beginning. He stops their super bomb, and as he's going back into the Batcave, he goes, "Put this in the museum," and the computer does it for him. Batman has that museum with all the villain props and stuff that you see in a lot of Batman comics and
Oh
movies
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. The giant coin, which everyone commonly associates with Two Face, was originally actually from a villain called the Penny Pincher, who was a real Batman villain who was obsessed with pennies. And if I remember right, he came before Two Face, but then they eventually retconned the coin to be Two Faces when the penny pincher.
They're like, we don't want to give up on the coin concept, but no one likes Petty Pincher.
Penny pincher's a little silly. Let's do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but he's a lawyer.
There's just so many amazing things in this
Hmm.
movie. Like, I love this portrayal of Batman. I wrote down so many just throwaway lines that really just paint this fun
Yeah.
picture that you don't usually get. Like, at one point, Batman confirms he doesn't pay
Yeah.
taxes.
A real villain.
Tax the rich, but and like his computer password is Iron Man
Oh
sucks.
yeah, to get back into his mansion, which I find very funny that at the end of the movie when uh, Barbara Gordon, voiced by Rosario Dawson, has to come back, she had to say Iron Man sucks, and she has been in several Marvel properties now, so very cute.
Yes, he has tuxedo dress up
Yeah, with
parties.
Alfred raining
Yeah.
clothes upon him like the
Well,
Great
Alfred
Gatsby.
watches. To be clear, Alfred
Yeah,
watches. He does not
yeah. Alfred
participate.
is not allowed to participate, unfortunately. Oh man, I yeah, and I just there's so much just kind of to bounce back to the point about the reverence of the source material. There's so many little goofy jokes and gimmicks in this. The closest thing to it that I can think of, like if in my opinion, it's still my favorite Batman thing, is the Batman Arkham games. Um, because in those video games, there's so many little Easter eggy things. Like I don't know, I'm assuming if you've never played them, one of the mechanics is that the Riddler like hides little riddles and clues throughout the area and you have to solve them. And like in the first game, for example, there's a riddle you have to solve about the Great White Shark, which is a somewhat obscure Batman villain. He doesn't turn up in any of the games physically. But when you scan the riddle, it like brings up his like criminal profile and you can read about him, and
Okay.
there's just tons of little like things that are like kind of blink or miss it. Same thing in this movie, like the actor who plays
It
Two
happens in the
Face.
Spider-Man
Yeah,
games
yeah,
too.
and the Spider-Man Insomniac game, very similar to that too. Tons of little hints and nods that are not,
collectibles that talk about villains who aren't
yeah,
there.
not things you need to know to like beat the game or pivotal to the plot of the game, but just like if you're kind of a bigger fan, it's like a nice little wink wink nudge nudge to let you know like, hey, we know the stuff that you care about. But one
Yeah.
of my favorite things in this movie is the casting gag of Two-Face is played by Billy D. Williams, who in the Tim Burton movies, Batman with Michael Keaton, Batman Returns, the sequel, he played Harvey Dent. And the reason he agreed to play Harvey Dent was that Tim Burton promised him, like, hey, eventually we're going to do the arc in the comics where you get the acid on your face and you become Two Face. And he's like, okay, cool. So after Batman Returns, that's when that was supposed to happen. But they, after Batman Returns was super dark and controversial at the time, they booted Tim Burton off the product and replaced him with Joel Schumacher, and that's how we got Batman Forever. And if you don't know, the Joel Schumacher movies are a lot goofier, to put it mildly, than the Tim Burton Batman movies. And in order, they wanted to go a different direction with Two Face, obviously, and make him a lot goofier. So they had to buy Billy D. Williams out of his contract so they could recast him with Tommy Lee Jones, which is inspired. Um, very inspired casting, but it's very cute that they finally bring years later. I don't even know. Batman Forever had to have been like late 90s, so it's almost 20 years later.
Maybe we should have been celebrating a more monumental anniversary than four.
But it's just cute that 20 years later they bring, even though he doesn't have very many lines and he's not a major player, they still brought Billy D. Williams back and let him be.
90% of this budget had to be paying these ridiculously big celebrities to show up and say two lines.
And then leave. It's very funny, very funny.
Like Zoe Kravitz was in that booth for max an hour just going meow
Yeah,
meow
man,
meow.
yeah.
And they're like, thanks Zoe.
Very good. All
Thanks Zoe. We've got what we need.
right. I love it.
And moving away from Batman himself, I want to talk about Dick Grayson in this
Okay.
movie. So I wanna preface this by saying that Dick Grayson is one of my favorite DC
Yeah.
characters. I think it's funny because I think in the DC world, all but one of my favorite characters has no real powers. And like that's what you go to DC for. You go to DC for the
Yeah.
gods, you know?
Shazam, Superman.
And I'm just like, I like Nightwing. I like Green Arrow.
I like the people who hit people with sticks.
But I love Nightwing. I think it's very hard to get him wrong unless you're Christopher Nolan.
Ooh.
Whoops.
Whoops. You should use your real name more
um,
often. Superman.
but I love I so when you look at how Dick Grayson is portrayed in this movie by Michael
Mm-hmm.
Cera, he is not really anything like what we usually get from Dick
Oh no.
Grayson. I mean, he's a pretty Dick Grayson in like the comics and most adaptations is a pretty sad slash mad kid because he just lost his entire family in an acrobating accident.
As happens, as happens.
So like it makes sense for Batman to take him in because he's like, hey, I've been there. I've had that anger. I will break you the way I broke myself.
Problematic. We'll get
But
into that some other day, maybe. It's problematic, but
yeah.
we'll accept it.
Oh, I could talk about problems with Batman all
Oh,
day,
I
but I
know you
won't.
could. I know you could.
But I actually think that he is in this movie, he is very bright-eyed and
Yeah.
naive and kind of stupid, and it works as more of a juxtaposition to
Uh,
Batman than Kindred
yeah,
Spirits,
definitely.
and it just works because like the message of the movie is I mean it's much deeper than this, but it's like lighten up, man.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you need to open yourself up and not close yourself.
Well, I also think it's hysterical because this is the only Batman property I've seen that directly addresses Batman's trauma.
Yeah, I, 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 I would have to think on
Sorry,
it, but
not
it's the one
addresses,
that
but like,
jumps to my head too. That yeah, definitely, it's very. Alfred is not afraid to call Bruce Wayne out on. You got some problems going on.
and like the movie works this is the only Batman movie where they solve his
Yeah.
trauma.
By the end of it.
He gets the help he
Yep.
needs. And I think that works for a kids movie. I think
Yeah.
that works for what they were going for.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a really cute and a good message for younger kids that it's not a bad thing, especially in this kind of capitalist society we live in, where it's very
We live in a
yeah.
society.
Oh shit, dude! It's the Joker was right all along. He was
We do live in one.
but it's a very good message, I think, to tell kids that it's not a bad thing that you need to ask for help every now and then, that people are
Yes.
here for support systems, and even if your regular family isn't there because they're dead or whatever, that you always have close friends or unconventional kind of families, that anything can work out. So I think that's a really sweet message for yeah.
Yes. And I think it's also nice because I feel like kids these days, um,
All their memes.
they're growing up, and the only thing the only thing people tend to outwardly celebrate about Batman is how dark and
Yeah.
cool and edgy he
Hmm.
is. He's a lone wolf, which is not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But why does he keep adopting children then? But sorry, tangent. But it's nice to give kids these days an opportunity to see that no, Batman, there is more to Batman
Yeah.
than brooding.
Yeah. And they nail it because this movie has reverence for not only just the character, but it also there's so many eras of Batman that are represented just in this one movie, like in
Yes.
the final fight when they're punching, they do the bam biff pow from like the 60s Batman. And they're
Well, and Alfred is dressed in the
yeah, yeah,
60s
Alfred puts
Batman
on the Adam
costume at
West.
the end. He literally says, I miss the 60s.
Kids these days. But yeah, they reference, in my opinion, which is one of my favorite aspects about Batman. And there's that game that's coming out soon. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but one of the main things about Batman is the whole Bat family aspect, and they even say that verbatim in
Yeah,
this movie once they're kind of reunited, and Batman opens up and lets Alfred and Robin and Batgirl help him out. Like that's always been an aspect of Batman. Like you have Batman, you have Robin, who eventually becomes Nightwing. You have Damian, who stays Robin, and then uh,
for
Tim, yeah,
now.
for now, Tim Drake, who's Red Robin. Then you have Batgirl, Batwoman, Batwing, Red Hood. Um,
He's got a habit of surrounding himself with
yeah,
tweens.
Batman. It's almost like a Michael Jackson, and they use Michael Jackson music. Holy shit! In this movie, did I just stumble on something? It's
Oh yeah, Man in the
yeah, his
Mirror.
his childhood was stunted when his parents were killed as a child, so he surrounds himself with youthful wards to make him recapture his lost youth.
Recapture. This is just a side note, but I really love that. Okay, Ray Fiennes is in this movie as
Yeah.
Alfred. He's there. He was in the
Uh huh.
booth. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, Voldemort is in
Yeah.
this movie and it's not voiced by Ray Fiennes. They hired a whole other person to do
It's
it.
Eddie is
And I was like, he's already there.
yeah. So in case that seems kind of random if you haven't seen this movie, you're like, wait, why the fuck does Voldemort show up? So the main trouble of this movie is that Joker gets his hand on the Phantom Zone projector, which, if you don't know DC lore,
Oh
um,
no. Joker
Batman
tricks
into giving,
Batman,
yeah, giving him,
goes,
yeah,
goes, no, to shooting him into the
that's
Phantom
right,
Zone.
that's right, yeah. So yeah, the Phantom Zone is basically a prison in the DC universe that's like an alternate pocket reality that usually is associated with Superman and Zod and sometimes Doomsday. But in this movie, the Phantom Zone, it's still a prison dimension, but it houses all the worst villains, which basically is
That Lego has
yeah,
domain
yeah,
over.
that
The kid,
Warner Brothers has the copyright.
the
Yeah,
kid, the kid has clearly went over to the bucket, a la Nakey Jakey, and just starts grabbing every character he can find in his Lego
yeah,
bucket. Cause like let me list the villains that are in,
Mhm.
because they're not they're not DC villains anymore. Once you're in the
Oh no.
Phantom Zone, there are gremlins. There is Sauron, King Kong, the shark from Jaws, several Jurassic Park dinosaurs, Voldemort, the Wicked Witch of the West, da- Daleks, Daleks from
Doctor Who, which
Doctor
is one of my
Who.
favorite jokes in the movie. they, Joker addresses them as British robots, and then as a side note says, "Ask your nerd friends."
Yeah. There's Dracula for a second. Medusa's there. Agent Smith from the Matrix is there, and Godzilla. Those are the ones I
Yeah,
caught.
the Agent Smith was another one that on this watch caught me completely off guard that I forgot about. And when he goes in the Phantom Zone and he's telling them like, "Hey, there's this guy named Batman. I need your help with." It. One Agent Smith goes, "Do you want us to smite him?" And then he replicates like he does in Matrix Revolutions and smite him, smite him, smite him, smite him. And I had to pause the movie because I was laughing very hard. That's a very good bit.
Yes, and they of course do what they do with everything in this movie, and these villains are hilariously
Yeah.
underpowered because it's a kid and Batman has to win. Like Voldemort, I think my favorite one is Voldemort because he's flying around the city just randomly turning everyone into
Yeah.
fish.
No Avada Kedavra. His abilities are exclusively he uses Wingardium Leviosa once, but the rest of the time he is turning people into.
He said Accio. He's
Oh
like
yeah.
Accio with
Yeah.
thunderstorm, and I was like, that's okay. Again, it's a child
Yeah.
playing, so I'm not really gonna. I wasn't actually offended, but
That he turns people into fish. Yeah, it's very good.
outside of summoning a storm, he literally the only thing we see him do for the final battle is turning people into
It's
fish.
very funny. Yeah, I love it. uh,
Oh, and before the final battle, what I love. So Joker has managed to open the Phantom Zone from the
mhm.
inside, and it like creates this massive, clearly, I guess, clearly alien slash paranormal cloud system in the
uh,
sky. And they don't know anything yet. The people of Gotham don't know anything yet. And one little Lego dude, he's like, I'm gonna go start looting. And he just ran.
Instantly, as soon as the wormhole opens up, everyone looks up.
He doesn't. It's right before Joker shows up to explain everything. This dude's like, I don't need any more information. Something's going on. I'm gonna go start
Yeah, the
looting.
Lego movie got very real. The Lego Batman movie got very real there. It's very,
Very accidentally
yeah,
topical.
still topical today. Oh man, very good. Something else that I want to bring up that is handled very well. We've already said multiple times this movie is hysterical. It's very still holds up today, and this is like my second or third watch even, and it's still like I said I belly laughed multiple times watching this. The way the humor in this is written is very reminiscent. My favorite comedy movie of all time is Airplane, and the
Hmm.
comedy style in that movie it's like a true farce. It's every line of dialogue is a joke in Airplane, and so even if there's a joke that goes by that you don't laugh at, it doesn't matter because in less than a second there's another joke coming right behind it. And it's not that much in this movie. Like there are serious moments and moments where it does slow down. But that's how I feel the humor in this movie is written, whether it is like a cute little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Easter egg type thing, or Batman and Robin start beatboxing and rapping in prison to calm their anxiety, and it's an extended scene of that. The movie is pretty much uh, a good, steady flow of jokes, and so yeah, even if one ends up not sticking for you, coming right behind it there will be more shortly. And I just appreciate, for me, for comedy, I appreciate that style very much. It like we've said, it reminds me a lot of improv, like doing improv on stage. It's just very pleasing to me. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I just found in my notes. I also want to take the time to list all of the superheroes that show up in this
Oh yeah.
movie. we don't get a lot. It really is just the Bat family is the mains,
Yeah.
but there is an extended scene in the Fortress of Solitude that shows you a whole like Justice League party, and I loved pausing to see who was
Yeah.
where because you have the obvious people. You've got the Green Lanterns, Wonder Woman, obviously Superman's there. It's his
Yeah.
cave, and then Green Arrow. But then they get and Flash, of
Yeah.
course. But then there's the Wonder Twins and their monkey
Yeah.
are present. Hawkman and Hawkgirl are
Yeah.
there. Cyborg is there. Black Canary is there. And Martian Manhunter is there, and he has the line more like Martian Dance Hunter. And I respect
Yeah.
that because he's still not really
Yeah.
mainstream. So the fact that they just went there, and then Crypto the Superdog was
DJ.
DJing the
Yeah.
party.
I didn't remember that either.
Crypto the Superdog. I
Oh
loved
god,
that show.
Crypto the Super Dog with Ace the Bat Hound.
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
It was so great. And one thing that carried over from the Lego movie. This is a very unorganized
Yeah,
podcast.
I mean it's the 4th anniversary we're celebrating. We've had a few glasses of champagne.
One thing that carried over from the Lego movie is master building.
Yeah.
There are several points in the movie where they're like, here, disassemble something in the world nearby and we'll rebuild what we
Yeah.
need with the Legos. And I love that
Yeah.
because it was a very integral part of the Lego movie, and it makes sense to carry it over to a character like Batman, who needs to use everything he
Mhm.
can to fight superpowered
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and the very first, like I said, I saw this before I saw the Lego movie, and I had no idea that was like even a thing in the Lego movie, obviously, but it reminded me a lot. The only really, other than, playing with Legos in real life, the only Lego experience that I had were like, the Lego Harry Potter games and the Lego Star Wars games. And in those games, the mechanic is like you break the environment and there's little pieces on the ground. You walk over and you like build a big cannon and blow up a door. And I thought that was just an homage to that. But yeah, now seeing the Lego movie and knowing, yeah, the master builder is like, a whole plot point. Yeah, I think that's a really, really cute thing too that they included in this movie.
Yes, it's
Mhm.
great. And the problem itself, the very last problem is that the ground is splitting in
Oh.
two, and their solution is they connect their heads and feet and pull back together, which is great for the message because
Yeah,
teamwork, but it's also just like so astonishing that you're like, oh my god, they
yeah,
know. The Legos know that we do
yeah.
this.
It,
We've all made a stack of
a
Lego
giant, yeah,
people.
a Lego centipede, like a la the human centipede. Yes.
Oh, if you hadn't said a la the human centipede, no one would know what you're
I
talking
mean, it's a
about.
very high culture reference, the human centipede. It's only those who have it on
You probably haven't heard of
the
it.
Criterion. Oh man, the Criterion collection, the human centipede.
There are a couple really great quotes that relate to the message that really just surprisingly hit me hard.
Yeah.
There's Barbara Gordon at one point is telling off Bruce for the millionth
Hmm.
time, but she was like, "You can't be a hero if you only care about yourself."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, damn." And then
Somewhere Booster Gold shed a single tear.
there's near the end with when Batman and Joker are confronting each other again. Joker's like, you run away from everyone in your life, yet I'm the one you're always
Yeah.
chasing. And I was like, oof, he's got
Yeah, that
issues.
they do a very it's framed once again kind of as a joke. Like they frame Batman and Joker's thing as a relationship. Like they,
And it is heavily coded romantic. It's clearly not meant to, you're not supposed to
yeah,
literally think they are dating or anything, but the language around it is
yeah.
clearly like they were
Uh-huh.
dating.
Yeah, it's like they literally say at the very beginning, Joker's like, "I'm your arch enemy," and he's like, "Whoa, you're not my arch enemy. I arch around." I think he says, or I fight. No, he says, "I like to fight around."
I love that
Yeah.
too because eventually, when pressed, he's like, "Who's your greatest enemy?" And Batman's like,
Yeah.
"Superman."
Coming off the heels of Batman versus Superman. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, but it's the Joker
But
relationship is handled, like the Batman Joker relationship, excuse me, is handled, yeah, very well in that quote you just said. Yeah, is a very good
yes.
indicator of that.
And Joker's further into that monologue he gives, the Joker very handily just explains how it is, and it's like, Batman, you know who your greatest enemy is? You. And you're like, geez, where was this, Christopher Nolan? Like, Batman's biggest detriment to his ability to live his life is always going to be
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah.
And I love that this movie just went there and decided to tackle it.
It's very funny to me that at the time when this movie was being made, there was one side of the Warner Brothers studio where somebody wrote down that line, and then just a few offices over, possibly, Zack Snyder was hammering away on a piece of paper with a crayon, probably,
Probably.
saying, and then Batman shoots the man in the head with a gun. Ay, ay, yeah.
But I think we have reminisced and discussed it plenty. Happy
Yes.
anniversary. Will Arnett, you should be getting our edible arrangement within a week. Or maybe not. We had the guess on the address,
Yeah,
so.
exactly. It actually I got it sent back in the mail, and in big capital letters it was written, "Stop sending me shit or I'm calling the police." So
Well, what else are
yeah,
you
what are
gonna
you
do?
what are you gonna do?
It's time for some apologies, and I have one. Do you have one?
Yeah, for my apology, I would like to apologize to Joel Schulmacher. Rest in peace.
Don't do that.
No, I am very much going to apologize to Joel Schumacher, because I have the Joel Schumacher Batman movies on special edition. I've watched the special features and commentary many times, and he is not to blame for how. I still think Batman Forever, even though it's totally different from the Burton Batman movies, I think holds up in if you take it for what it is. But Batman and Robin is a shit show. Um, but it was not Joel Schumacher's decision to make it like that. He was pressed by toy companies and studio executives appealing to the toy
Put nipples
companies.
on them?
Uh,
The toy company said, give them all nipples.
yes. Well, okay. The nipples, whatever. If you want to yell at Joel Schumacher for the nipples, go for it. But the nipples, to me, are such a small, insignificant thing. I just want to pinch them, give them a little kiss. But anyway, the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. I want to apologize to Joel. Got a lot of hate while you were still alive for those movies, but you are a very competent filmmaker. You made Lost Boys and Phone Booth, which are two of my favorite movies. And I think Batman Forever is a very fun movie. Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey are, even though they supposedly
Frenemies.
fucking hated each other on set, are a tour de force. Very enjoyable to watch. Very goofy. And God rest in peace, Joel. Love you, and I apologize for all the hate you got.
And I would like to apologize to everyone who just had to hear the phrase Joel Schumacher is a competent filmmaker.
Damn!
I'm
Wow,
sorry.
this is what we're doing on this podcast. Then, all right. If we're
We're not
throwing each other
friends.
under the bus, we I originally said we should
What you like is stupid.
you suck.
Come be on our show.
uh, different strokes for different folks is the moral of the story.
Stupid strokes for stupid folks.
Okay. Jeez, all right. Oh man. Well,
Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for tonight.
what a way to end it.
So,
Thank,
stay safe, wear a
yeah.
mask.
Thank you for tuning into the last Culture Schlock podcast.
The gang is breaking up. We cannot stand to be around each other anymore. Irreconcilable differences.
Yeah. For cause for divorce, Joel Schumacher.
Hasn't he ruined
Oh
enough?
my god. Okay, we're not doing this here. Think of the children.
Okay, well, stay safe, wear a mask
Yeah,
again.
for real.
I hope you guys are doing well in these super awful
Yeah.
times.
Hopefully we provide
And
a little levity and everything, but yeah, definitely just keep your head up. Not to be an optimistic sounding annoying person because I used to hate those people too, but uh things it's like Alfred once said. No, it's not Alfred. It's Harvey Dent. It's always darkest before the dawn.
okay, so no matter what time of day it is, I hope you're having a good one.
Yeah.